Hello and welcome to you. I'm so glad that you're joining us today, and I'm so happy to be joined by my friend Stephen from the Soul on Purpose podcast. And we have some pretty great conversations together about energy and what's going on in the world and understanding like the spiritual awakening and all these great things. And so it's really fun to come together and have these conversations, Stephen, and then record them as well and share for everybody else in the world who is feeling and needing a place for their words and their feelings to go. I hope that you can find some resonance here. So thanks for being here today.
Thanks very much for having me, Michelle. It's always great to meet up with you, even if it's virtually, and have a really good discussion. And yeah, maybe some folks somewhere else can find some resonance in this and know that
Yeah.
they're not alone, and we're all feeling the whoa.
Tell me about the woe that you're feeling. What's the woe?
So yeah, it's I don't know, for a long time there, the energy was to me just felt full on. It was like a stream, like a powerful jet of energy that was, hitting the planet, and everything just felt supercharged, like electric, and it was just roiling around us. And it was an opportunity, I think, with that energy to, use it to propel us forward. And then all of a sudden, it's like there's a void, there's a silence. So, you know, the way I described it is we were rocket powered, and we started blasting off into space. And like in the movies, you get into orbit and then everything goes quiet and there's no more thrust, and we kind of just
Ah,
drifting along. It felt
yeah.
like that. There was this massive rush of energy, and now it's gone right. So
Yeah.
that is different. I haven't experienced that before.
Yeah.
So that was a that was a point of interest for me.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely feel that as well. And in that feeling of that, void kind of a feeling, there's definitely like some confusion. There's definitely a little bit more chaos. There's definitely, people going kind of in all different directions. And so we're witnessing a lot at the same time. And for a sensitive soul, it's hard to comprehend it all, to understand it all, and then to determine how the heck you should navigate it.
Yeah, that's right. It's kind of, sometimes it's quite difficult to just, be calm and really, be at peace when, it's literally that meme where the dog is sitting in the room that's burning and he's sipping his tea going, everything's fine, everything's fine. I'm not a, I'm not a big advocate of that, but nor am I an advocate of like running around with, yelling and screaming that there's a fire when it's quite obvious that there's a fire. Um, so yeah, there's a fire. There's a fire. Yeah, I can see that, and
You're
we're going
like,
to leave the
thanks,
building,
Pips.
right?
Yeah.
So it's a lot, but it kind of feels like this is what we've been preparing for
Yeah.
in a way. And I think there's not a collective we're preparing for. Everyone's going to be at a different point, and I think this experience will sort of land differently for everyone depending on where they are. And there's no wrong or right, but it is a case of just um, you have a choice. You can either hang on to the rocket screaming, or you can be like, "Wee, let's go." So
Yeah.
choose
Yeah.
choose wisely is what I
Yeah.
would say.
I think you're absolutely right, Stephen. It does feel like we've been preparing for this moment for a long time. And earlier in the year, I said it kind of feels like, we're waiting for that New Year's Eve ball to drop on some level. Like you're just waiting for the countdown. I feel like now the countdown has happened and now we're kind of launched, so to speak, because it does feel a little bit like we're being required to maybe lean on the tools that we have been building and growing and the resiliency that we've been building and growing and all of the awakening that has happened for this purpose. of this period of time. And for me, it feels like a very big contraction. It feels like everything is being kind of like sucked into a vacuum. And until like we're ready for, like, we're just getting ready for that expansion. But before the expansion happens, there's a contraction that kind of comes into play here. And that's how it feels. So it feels tight, feels kind of like a bit of pressure. It feels maybe heavy. It feels a little bit chaotic. And there's many of us who are maybe have already sprung out of that, who are wanting to spring out of that, whichever way you sit in this. But it feels like it feels like a lot of energetic heavy lifting right now at this time.
Yeah, that definitely resonates. It's you know, I think maybe sometimes there's that pressure builds and builds and builds, and it kind of shoots you out in whichever. I think you get to choose the direction, but you're gonna, we're gonna get propelled out of this thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does again, like touching back on we've been preparing for this. I really do feel that, we've been developing tools and skills and working with whoever we've chosen to work with in the non-physical, and we're at the point now where the I think the analogy is the parent was running along next to the kid with the bicycle,
Yeah.
and they've just taken their hand off our back,
Yeah.
and we're actually starting to ride the bike.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a bit
And
wobbly.
yes, lots wobbly, and
Yeah.
we may even fall over, but we'll get back up and dust ourselves off and try again. And yeah, we really can't get it wrong. So it's a learning experience, and I think if we approach it that way, we either win or we learn. Um, that's we'll get to the outcome that we're supposed to get to.
Absolutely. And, what I also understand is that we're not all meant to go at the exact same time. And so there will be those who are kind of like maybe forging ahead and breaking trail, and that's a little bit more energetic draining than those who come into this in a timing where they're following the path. And so you may be, if you're watching this video, one of the people who is kind of forging trail through all of this and doing a little bit more energetic lifting, I think, in terms of um, sharing light in a way that is authentic to you.
Yeah, and as you said, it is breaking trail is always going to be harder, and then the danger is, we sort of stop and look around, and nobody else is doing anything, which is why like your online community is to me is so critically important, because you share your experiences, and then you realize that okay, it's not just me. There's a whole group of people that are dealing with maybe not exactly the same struggles, but similar, and that's all
Hmm.
we really need, right? Because
Hmm.
with I guess the modern life and the way we live, it's easy to become isolated.
Hmm.
And yeah, when it comes to the spiritual work as well, it's sometimes you kind of look around and going, does nobody else see what's going on?
Yeah.
And then you hang out with some like-minded people, and they're like, oh yeah, totally. This I feel. And again, they might just be a little bit different, but they are right there, in broad terms, going through exactly the same thing. And it's like, okay, this is all right then. It's not just me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we all feel it differently because our energetic imprints are unique to us. And so the exact way that you feel might not be the exact way that I feel, but that we can absolutely understand, what we're talking about when we say, I'm not sleeping, or I'm, feeling like this heaviness, yet everything is seemingly okay. I feel an energetic shift that I can't put my finger on. I'm not exactly sure what it is yet. All of these kinds of things are really like so much easier to contend with when you're not like isolated on your own, for sure.
Yeah, and we do that as humans, right? We keep comparing. Yeah,
Yeah.
we hear that from so many places. Like, your excuse me, your spiritual path is just very much for you, and your journey is yours. It's just personal. We're all going to do it differently, but we still compare. I mean, I do it. You look around and you think, wow, that person is doing so much better, and that, like you've taught me as well, is that you can look at some people and think they got it going on, and meanwhile behind the scenes, not so much. Like,
Not so much.
I think we all have really good days, and we all have our in between days. And yeah, I think we've got to get out of that whole comparison thing, because if you're comparing yourself on a middle day to somebody that's having a really good day, then you might be, yeah, you're probably going to be misleading yourself about how things are actually going. So yeah, again, lessons during this time is just focus inwards on how you're doing and how things are going for you. And if it's going well, don't feel bad about it. Don't look around and go, oh, everybody that I can see is in headless chicken mode. I'm
And
sitting
I'm
over
doing
here
fine.
feeling quite calm. Exactly. So,
Yeah.
ooh,
Yeah.
is that okay? It's
Yeah.
absolutely okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so
Absolutely.
many lessons, right? Just
Yeah. One of the things that I have questioned, and I've been asking about this and writing about this in my journal quite a bit, Stephen, is, um, for a light worker, where is kind of the line of the type of, like, when do you speak up? If we're here creating a world that we want to see, when do we speak up about it? When do we just carry light? What do we do? And this is my thought, and I'd love to hear your take on this. And I feel like there are two kinds of people, two kinds of light workers in the world, and those who want to be like the whistleblowers, and the ones who are maybe the truth tellers, and the ones who like bring things to attention and kind of disrupt, I guess is the best way to say it. And then there are those who hold an energetic frequency as their form of healing, as their form of contributing to change on the planet. How do you feel about that? What do you think that our purpose is right now through this? Like, is it, what do you feel like you're doing?
I think a little bit of both, actually. And it's and
Really?
what and why I say that is, so in sort of the day job, I do, and I have open discussions with people that I work with, about more about the spiritual side of things. I've tried to really show up as my whole self. I wouldn't say I'm a truth teller. I have to show up respecting where they are in their journey, and it's not my place to actually, I appreciate, it's not my place to wake people up. But if there's if they're starting to, let's say, question what they're seeing around them, I think that'd be that's a good way of making it all right for them to talk about, say, things that you wouldn't normally talk about, and in the spiritual and energetic space. But yeah, I think there are truth tellers. I'm not a big um, conflict person. I don't enjoy conflict.
Hmm.
I'm not good at it, so I tend to avoid it. But when it comes to, like, me personally, or people that I work closely with, I'm totally comfortable, um, you know, going against the grain
Hmm.
in the organization. If I feel the organization that or the organizations that I work with are not doing things in the best interest of my team, I'm comfortable taking that on. But
Hmm.
just being a broad-based disruptor, really challenging systems and all that, to me, that feels like confrontation. And yeah, I'm not comfortable in
You're
that
not built
space.
for it. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not built for it either, but I love people who are. Like, I
yeah.
certainly appreciate people who are. It's a very important part of our journey right now, actually.
Mm.
But yeah, no, I can't hold that frequency either. I'm far too sensitive for it for sure. Yeah.
And it's exhausting, right? It's to,
Yeah.
you
Good point.
sometimes if you feel like you have to play those roles because the fear is that if you don't do it, nobody's going to do it. And there's been a couple of occasions where I've gone against my better judgment, right?
Mhm.
And sort of try to push myself into that role, and it just drains all the life force out of me, and it doesn't take long, right? Because so it doesn't resonate with my frequency, and yeah, and it's just as part of the awakening experience, that's what I've found as well, is that we wear these masks to kind of fit into reality. And that gets harder and harder to do as well. That
Mhm.
becomes very draining. And more I find, the mask is slipping.
Good.
And yeah, the mask slips and people catch a glimpse, and then, more often than not, somebody will like get a hold of you after something you said on a call, and they'll be like, "Hey, that was kind of weird. I thought you were saying something about this." And I'm like, well, glad you picked up on it because I was. So yeah, there's all of that happens. I'm absolutely convinced it happens for a reason.
Mhm.
But yeah, I was very in a very similar vein. I was working with a client of mine, and she goes, I was sitting in this meeting. It was a virtual meeting, and they were discussing whatever. And she goes, all of a sudden, I was overcome with how ridiculous this whole thing is. Like, all of this is it's a farce. Like, what are we doing? This is meaningless. And that is, part of this. I think this energy shift that's happening. It's forcing people's eyes open, and they're like looking around and going, like, what is this? This is not. It doesn't feel real. There's a
Yeah.
real disconnect, with reality. And a big manifest of that is time. All right, so there was that period where earlier this year time was absolutely just rocketing along, and then it was like, I think it was around the September, October, it seemed to go back to normal. It didn't feel like it was passing by as quick. And then here, end of October, beginning of November, the engines came on full afterburner again, and it's December next week, and my brain is like, what?
Exactly. Yeah.
So the fabric of reality feels like it's unraveling a little bit, which
Yeah.
is which is to be expected. Um, but yeah, if you're not expecting it, and
Yeah.
you haven't been, doing the work and developing the tools, I think it can feel a lot. And I think that's why there's so many people showing up now on social media saying, like, pretty much it feels like it's the end of the world.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
your discernment right now is a
Yeah.
superpower. Now
Yes.
more than ever. If you can discern
Yes.
truth, through the way that it feels and it resonates,
Yeah.
you're in a very, very fortunate position.
Yeah. So true. So many things there. Holy crow to unpack, Stephen. But
Sorry, it's a
I
lot.
could, oh no, it's fantastic. I love it because you're so right. Like, it's so interesting to see how this mass awakening is unfolding. And so for those who, maybe just stepping into this as kind of maybe a new thought, a new approach, wherever they are, it's going to be very challenging at this time. Spiritual awakening is not the easiest days of your life. They're just not. Spiritual awakening doesn't happen because you are, running through fields of flowers. They happen because you're challenged. Absolutely. And I found, one of the things that I have found interesting is watching the energy of people who were really caught up in did you hear about the rapture that people spoke about. And I think it was a day in September, and people thought they were going to be, uploaded by Jesus and taken to heaven, and they were selling off their belongings and so forth. And the other thing that is occurring right now for people, I was reading this recently, is the number of people requesting and seeking out exorcisms has risen sharply. And so people are feeling so uncomfortable that they feel like there's something that has taken over them, or that, and I'm just like, wow, it's so interesting, how people go through an awakening process, or what they feel when things get uncomfortable. And uh, I can't say that I feel the exact same, but I'm not going to judge people who do. I mean, I'm not in their position. I don't know what it feels like to be them and why they would feel like they need an exorcism. But the process of awakening is very, very interesting right now. And you were seeing people behave in ways that I don't think we've seen in a very long time. I My message and how I feel is, how important it is to promote that love frequency on the planet. And that's where I feel called. And what I feel called to do is just like, I'm never going to be anything else. I'm just going to always kind of be in that space and promote that, because anything else comes from the side of fear. And that's exactly what we want to move away from, and more towards that love. And so when we see a pendulum swing like this, and it swings, hard in one direction or another, it's always doing that right before it kind of comes back to the middle. And I think I've heard you speak about this too. Like, I feel kind of in the middle. Like, I don't feel like extreme one way or another. I feel kind of in the middle with this. And so the one thing I can say on this is that it is my hope that seeing a pendulum swing like this, with so many people thinking, just escape me from the planet, exorcise the demons from my soul, or whatever it is that they are thinking, that is now a sign that a pendulum has gone really quite far to one direction, and now we're going to kind of settle back in the middle a little bit more.
Yeah, I hadn't heard about the exorcism thing, but
Ooh,
that
I'll have to
is
share some articles with you.
fascinating. Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds great. But yeah, I think right there, it's like, so, if again, with zero judgment, it's like how people were raised and the environment that they find themselves in.
Yeah.
I see all of that as positive signs that there's definitely something happen, and then
Yeah.
that's, all everybody's experiencing it differently according to their frame of reference. So that's, yeah. And I mean, the rapture as well. I did see a bit of that. I thought, again, it was very interesting. And you know it'll be, we are very much shaped by our environments. And yeah, I just hope through all of that, the people that are going through that, when they come out the other side, have found peace. I don't think it's a one and done. And yeah, the pendulum, it's strange. It does swing, but it seems to swing forward and then back to the middle and then forward. There's not a lot of going back. It's like once once you're on the awakening side of the fence, yeah, there's no going back. Not that you would. Well, I mean, there's probably some days where you're like, you know what? If I could not know sometimes, that'd be okay, just for a day or
Yeah.
two, right? But
Yeah.
there's no going back. And I think, since my awakening some time ago, I've probably had maybe half a dozen days where I was like, yeah, I could just, plug me back into the matrix. I don't want to know anymore. But it doesn't last long, because yeah, I remember being on the other side of it, and there was just something scratching it, in your mind, that something's not right. and I have no desire to go back to that. And I'm having too much fun on this side of the fence anyway. So
Yeah.
here I would very much like to stay.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that once you're kind of, yeah, awakened to it, it's like a door that opens that you just don't ever want to close again. I agree. How do you think that the energy of all that is going to be happening, like we've had a lot of kind of like events this fall, and as we approach December, holy camole, there's just a lot going down. And Three Eye Atlas, which you and I have talked a lot about, which my personal belief is that it is an activator and it is here to activate. And clearly, I mean, we're seeing whether it was from Three Eye Atlas or whatever it was that caused it, we're seeing a lot of activation. But coming up in December, we've got a lot of movement in not only that, but in other events that are happening. How do you feel about what's coming forward?
Yeah, the it's I think it's going to be the opposite of, like you were saying at the moment we're in a phase where it feels like we're drawing breath, taking stock, the pressure's building. And then it's just going to be expelled over this December period. Like, I think we were mentioning some of this earlier. We've got the full moon on the 4th, the 12 portal. Then Three Eye Atlas makes its closest approach to the Earth on the 19th, and then the solstice on
Right.
the 21st. So that's like almost one thing every week.
Yeah.
Um, and I think there's going to be a lot of energy available for us to collect and use. And you can either, if you're not ready for it and you're not maybe leaning into a little bit, you could find yourself feeling a bit overwhelmed. But if you're ready and you've got your sails out and you're going to catch as much energy as you can to, leap forward into sort of your next chapter or your next step, whatever it looks like for wherever you are, I think it's going to be a great time.
Yeah.
I
Agreed.
always really love the Christmas period. It's always felt really good for me, but this time there's there's something else coming. Very
Agreed.
positive, right? You either may feel at times a little overwhelmed, and that's okay. It'll pass, or you're going to be launched into your sort of maybe the next version. I think maybe some people would describe it as maybe a timeline shift, but there's something of that nature coming, but overwhelmingly positive. The whole Three Eye Atlas thing. I do think I agree, it's an activator, and it's stirred up the sun, and the sun in turn, sent us a whole bunch of energy that again has the earth is basically, it's a closed system, and you've dumped a whole bunch of energy into it, and it's I think that's maybe why we have those pressure cooker analogies going on,
Yeah.
and now we get to expend that energy, we get to use it and play with it and have fun with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Starting with the full moon on the 4th of December, I think this is going to be a pretty big full moon for people. It's not a super moon this time, but it is going to feel energetically like that. I think it's going to be a very time of really big energy, and it will be the kind not for, of course, this isn't for every single person, but I believe that one of the things that it'll be bringing forward is shifts in your consciousness and your awareness, and kind of maybe some more like mental clarity or spiritual clarity, soul clarity, that kind of thing. And I feel like people right now are like, it's being shared with everybody is, kind of upgrading your mission or your purpose. And so I feel like people are going to come out the other side of this feeling like they know, like you were saying, in that beautiful example of being in that meeting and somebody saying, what are we actually doing? And why is this actually important? And I was listening to that thinking, yes, because the big things that we think are important need to switch places with the little things that are important. And we need to make the little things the big things and the big things the little things. And so I can see this kind of happening right now. And I feel like on the other side of this full moon is kind of that kind of an awakening. And so when you say it's so positive, you're right. It is so positive. And it can also feel a little bit like, what the hell have I been doing? What the hell have I been up to?
Yeah, and it can be largely positive, but still feel as scary as hell in that moment as
Yeah.
well, right? And yeah, it's trying, and I don't always succeed myself, but trying not to judge it and just reverting back to that. All of this is happening for me; it's not happening to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just yeah, I think December is going to be it's going to be interesting, and the strong energies, but I don't get any sense of like it's not the bull riding stuff where we're
No.
completely out of control and just hanging on. But I also think we all need to remember that free will is like you know is is the most important thing to you know to the universe and energies, and you have a choice, right? I don't think anybody's going to be dragged kicking and screaming. Grab you
No.
by the scruff of the neck. Happiness is this way, and you're coming with me whether you like it or not. It's a choice, and go
Yeah.
at your own speed, and
Yeah.
yeah, tune out all the social media, because I think when all those shifts happen, and the people that don't understand what's going on simply because they don't have the frame of reference, to them it does feel like you hear things like end of days and all sorts of stuff like that, and it's just
Mhm.
because to them, I guess maybe that is how it feels, but to me this is yeah, it doesn't feel like end of days. It just feels like end of normal, boring, maybe fake kind of days, right?
Yeah.
So that's exciting. i'm uh,
Yeah, it
i'm
is
i'm
exciting.
keen.
And it's so true. Like your authenticity is the most precious part of your being, right? The ways that you are authentic is the most amazing parts of your being. And so it isn't about like being, you know, blissfully, insanely happy. It's about being, true to you. And sometimes that's reverent, and sometimes that's quiet, and sometimes that's, you know, feeling a little bit like you don't want to be out in massive public or things like that. Like it's being true to you that is the most important part. And that's the sovereignty within our being that we are meant to exercise. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had quite a few angel cards show up for me saying now's the time to you know focus more inward, take time
Yeah.
for you, recuperate. It was funny, I had um a really cool deck, and it's another Kyle Gray deck,
Mhm.
and it's the let me read this. What does it say? The Angels and Ancestors.
Oh, yeah. I love that one.
Right. And it pulled out the Hermit card, and I was like, oh my God. That's like, that's me, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, I was getting permission to just, be, seek solitude and, rest and recuperate. And I was like, I was so excited to get it. And then I started to ask, well, why would I need to rest? What's happening that I need to be rested
Mm.
for? And I think that's exactly, Michelle, what you're saying now about December. So now it starts to make a bit more sense. So it's like, yeah, get yourself ready, Stephen, because this you got a ride coming. And again, overwhelmingly positive, but yeah, just
Yeah.
and the pulling those the cards on a regular basis, some of the patterns that are coming out. I see very regularly the sun comes up for me, right? Which aligns and very much resonates with all the energy that's coming out of the sun at the moment, and
Yeah.
all the flares, and all the storms that we've had. And yeah, I think for a long time people certain people on the internet were talking about how it's the sun that changes us, and is going to change us. And I don't know. It kind of feels like that's going on now. I'm not saying it is, but it just
Oh,
little
it
things are
is.
starting to line
Yeah,
up, right?
absolutely. All of these things are, as you say, by design, not by accident. And they are happening to awaken us. And I think one of the things that has occurred because of all of these massive solar flares is what I'm going to call like this the veil between physical and non-physical is so much thinner than it ever was. And so our ability to tap into the energy of non-physical, which is unconditional light and love and contains, all of that beautiful stuff, our angels, spirit guides, loved ones, source energy, galactic energy, all of that is in there. And so we're really tapping into and feeling that differently than we ever have before. And it's not only that, but it's upgrading your intuitive system in its entirety. And I am seeing, I always call it the BS monitor system. But like, I think people's BS monitoring systems are working better than they have in a very long time. And people are hearing a story and going, I don't know I mean, there's still certainly some people who will hear it and think, oh, okay, that's the absolute truth. But there's many who are going, I don't know how that sits with me. It doesn't just quite feel right. There's something about that that's not quite right.
Yeah. And I've wondered, like, if if people, because their BS detectors are, let's say, upgraded, is that because they're awakening, or does that help them awaken? Because when you start
Helps
going,
them awaken. Yeah,
you
maybe a
know,
bit both. Which comes first, the chicken or the egg, right?
right? Because yeah, this again, I think I've heard it from so many people across a sort of a spectrum of say age groups and whatever other demographic you want to throw in there, but everybody's having the same thing where they, the let's say the current, um, let's call it the current thing, what everybody wants to talk about, whether that's a political thing or a three-eye atlas, whatever it is. So let's talk about Three Eye Atlas then. So Three Eye Atlas shows up, and you have this whole spectrum of reactions to it.
Hmm.
And you've got some people saying, okay, this is the end of the world. And then you go right through to the other end, like this is actually an alien spaceship, and they are coming, and they're going to come pop in and say hi, and everything you can possibly think of, say, between those two. And yeah, there's people are learning to really sift through stuff and just
Hmm.
be like that. That doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, now that doesn't make. Oh, okay, that kind of feels. And that's, yeah, as you're saying, that's your intuition. Like it's really coming online,
That's
and I
right.
think that's why all there's a lot of people pointing at like the truth is all going to come out now, because people will, it's going to get harder and harder to BS people, really.
That's right.
And I think it's awesome. I'm already seeing it in sort of organizations that are trying to, let's say, market their way out of things with employees, and that where they'll say, oh, don't worry about what you've seen, everything is amazing and we're treating you so wonderfully. And it's a bunch of people going, what? And whereas before, I think we'd all just nod and smile and carry on. And yeah, people are questioning everything, and it's awesome. It's really
Yeah.
good. It sucks when we're all doing it together, and there's not sort of that, let's say, the support framework to say, look, this is normal, you
Yeah.
know. And I do think it's tied to the awakening piece. Um, but yeah, there's some people that are awakening and are just awakening into chaos because the very foundation of your experience shifts or falls away completely, and you're left questioning everything in isolation, which is why I think like your podcast and your online group and all of that is just such a key resource, because yeah, I think a lot of people are going to need just, I wouldn't say a lot of help, but just just that connection and just be like, yeah, you're not alone in this. We're all going through some wild stuff, and
Mhm.
it's okay. It
Mhm.
is normal,
Mhm.
right? Because I think
Yeah.
we're all programmed to feel that, if you're either going along with society or there's something wrong with you. Wow, there's there's more options in between those two sort of choices, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think too, like one of the things that I find is that, when you hear a truth about something that you thought was, or like you grew up your whole life thinking, one way about something, and then a truth comes out and you're like, oh, like it hurts. Like I'm disappointed. Like, why would a person have such like come with such a dark approach to this? Like I thought, I wanted it to be different. I didn't want it to be like the way that it actually is. It can be very hard, and I think that's part of the overwhelm that we can feel right now, is tuning into all of this. And as truths come to the surface and you see them for what they are actually, and something else was presented to you all along, it's like disappointment feeling.
Yeah, and you're so like beat up on yourself a bit, right? How could they take me in and fool me like that for so long? So there's a bit of, a lot of self-reflection, and yeah, that's happened to me too. And you feel quite, at the time when it all happens, I've, felt quite silly. But hey, they did it once, they won't get to do it a second time.
Yeah.
But yeah, but then I'm quickly reminded to reflect on what have I learned through that
Yeah.
experience, right?
100%.
And and that's the alchemy, right? Is taking those negative experiences and turning them into knowledge.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to be said for that, and
Yeah.
also helps that, I mean, that process helps get into the blame, because blame can keep you stuck for, in my case, being a very stubborn person for a long time, to nobody's benefit.
Yeah. Yeah. I say this a lot. We learn as much from the things that we get wrong as we do from the things that we get right. And so I think that it builds your intuitive language when we learn truths and things like this come to the surface. So that's how I see it, as an intuitive upgrade. As we move to the 1212 portal, one of the things that, like, I know December is changing us. I know that we're not going to be the same people in January as we are right now in this very moment, that December is changing us. And one of the things about the 1212 portal is the energy of being, or feeling more connected to your mission, or feeling more on purpose. And I'm seeing a lot of people wanting to make changes in terms of what they're doing, or maybe even just how they're doing it, like just going about making changes that are more conducive to them and their energy, or more true or authentic to them. That's one of the things that I see on the other side of this portal. And as you said, like you're really feeling called to go inward right now, and you're even drawing like messages that are in support of this. I think that it is a lot of internal reflection that will probably be happening around this time.
Well, that's good news for me, right? Because that's my happy place. But yeah, it's fascinating. Just working with clients, and they are it's they're in good careers, and all of a sudden they're looking around and they're like, "This is absolutely not what I want." Right?
Yeah.
Am I crazy? And it's like, yeah, absolutely not. You're not crazy, but yeah, just seemingly overnight, that things that you've invested in for 20 or 30 years, like your career, is just overnight becomes like worthless to you, like in
Mhm.
in your experience. So, yeah, and I think perhaps that's something else that may come out of all this inward work and inward focus that you're referring to here, Michelle, on that 1212 portal. I think it was happening already, but this could start a maybe there'll be a spike in it. And all of this is really good news because it just helps more and more people awaken to the truth of things.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think the more of us that on the planet that are awakened is that's obviously better for everybody. But no, interesting.
Hmm.
I'll tell my wife that from the 12th I'm going to be unavailable for a bit. Michelle said it's fine.
That's not what Michelle No, you still gotta do your dishes, Steven. Sorry.
Darn it.
What about when Three Eye Atlas comes screaming by the earth, full tilt? How do you? So it affected the sun. It was very interesting, and it was in fact energized by its pass by the sun as well. So, any thoughts about what we can expect around that time? So, this is around I think the actual day is the 19th of December, but it'll be, the days prior and the days after. So, usually, like that full week will be quite full of intensity.
Yeah, and I just see really more of the same where there's lots of activation energy around,
Yeah.
plenty of energy for us to use to, you know, let's say remodel our spiritual homes. Um, uh, when we, you know, when it passes at its closest point, I think it's still 245 million kilometers away. So
Yeah.
bearing in mind that
Yeah.
galactically speaking, that is just across the road. But, for us, I don't think we're going to be able to look up into the sky and go, oh, wow. But it's preparing, I think it's preparing us for that, right? These are all like they seem to be little stepping stones, right? And, the fact that there's some pretty, let's say, mainstream channels that are, say on YouTube that are speaking about Three Eye Atlas as being an alien craft, and people are remote viewing it, and there's all sorts of should we say explanations that are going on around it. And I don't really have an opinion one way or the other. I'm just thrilled by the energy that it's bringing down because that's driving the awakening of many more people.
Hmm.
So I think it's an opportunity for us to really use our perception. And um, if we think it's going to be a crazy time and there's going to be lots of things going on planet Earth and it's going to just be a crazy period, then that's going to be your experience. And if you think it's going to be a time that's filled with lots of activations and people waking up, and that's a very calm and soothing and at the same time exciting kind of energy, then I think that's going to be your experience too.
Yeah.
So once again, you can be in for the bull ride, or you can be in for the Rolls Royce ride, and you get to choose.
You get
So
to choose.
choose
Yeah.
wisely.
Yeah, I am with you there. I think, let it activate the highest parts of your being and your intuition, your instincts, and your ability to connect with energy, all of those things, and let it ignite your purpose and your mission a little bit more. So I think that's what is so interesting about the timing of this, again, to me, feels so divinely on purpose here because quite often, not everybody, mind you, but many people are able to like get a little bit of downtime after that Christmas period. So, depending on how your holidays work or fall, we typically have like as soon as the Christmas day is over and we move into that period of time between Christmas and New Year's, and it's often like a few more sleep ins in there, hopefully, or just some quiet moments or some quiet mornings or something along those lines. I find that so interesting that the timing of this is so perfect for that because we're really going to need it. And so, my invitation, it's quite it coincides directly also with the winter equinox, or the winter solstice, pardon me, which is such an invitation for going in and, welcoming a little bit of that stillness energy. It's really conducive for that. Um, and then we have this happening as well. So all of this inner questioning, all of this like inner shifting and inner awakening happening. And then right on the heels of that, the invitation would be like find and carve out some time for some stillness for you to we need time to kind of like let that all kind of sift through. It's like, putting something through the sifter and shaking it and, letting it just gently kind of land and fall within you where it needs to land. So it's really like, I mean, Three Eye Atlas could have had entirely different timing. Like it just could have, but it is this. And I find that part fascinating of itself.
I I wholly agree. And some of the scientists reckon that Three Eye Atlas was created or formed, billions of years ago, and it's been traveling through. So if you believe that Three Eye Atlas, which, and I do, that is here, it's divine timing.
Hmm.
And this thing was started its journey billions of years ago. It feels really special, and honestly, I believe it is special. Yeah, just touching on what you were saying there, that period between Christmas and New Year's. Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to take that and will reflect, and we all just get off our hamster wheels then, right? We
Yeah.
stop and we get off the wheel, and then we have just an extra, even if it's a day or two of freedom. And I think then filled with this push to go inside and all this awakening energy. Yeah, it's not hard to see how I think a whole bunch of people are going to go into the new year with a completely different outlook.
Yeah.
And that shift will feel like it's happened so fast, for so many people. But yeah, I think it's been coming for a while, and that's the way it is. I think with awakening, it feels very sudden, but if you're then able to go back in time and be sensitive to all the little changes and all the little things that you started onboarding that made you open to the awakening experience, it wasn't sudden at all. I mean, sometimes, there's people with, they can map it back 20 years when things started happening, and it slowly collectively builds up and to the point where, your heart is open enough to have your, go through an awakening. So
Mhm.
that's my hope, is that coming into the new year, there's a whole bunch of new people that are um, having a really awesome experience in terms of, the lights are coming on, and they just, for the first time, sometimes seeing the world that they're in. Because, yeah, there's a lot of beauty. There's a lot of things to be grateful for. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. We will need to come back and chat on the other side of all of this in January and see how we're sitting and where things are at. Um, I, I guess as a final thought, um, what I would just say is this is that wherever you are at in your journey, honor it. And I would just invite you to lean into it and to just, trust the process and trust your own becoming. And that you came here on a mission with beautiful things to share. And my wish for you for December would be that you let some of those things unfold and you allow yourself to maybe see, feel, taste a little bit of what that is so that you are moving more and more into the most authentic and true parts of your being. And I think that's a beautiful approach to December. And if we look out into the world, it may not look as pretty as that picture, but that if you want to actually make a difference and contribute, that's a beautiful way that you can do it. Yeah. How about you, Stephen? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll keep it real simple, and I'll just be, no matter what happens and how the energies unfold for you, like you are made for this, right? There is nothing that's coming that you can't handle. You were made for this moment. You chose to come here knowing that you could handle it. So, let's have some fun with it. Let's see where it takes us. And if a big old wave comes along, let's surf this sucker all the way to the beach.
Definitely. Oh, that's awesome, Stephen. As always, I just love having conversations with you and getting to talk about all this incredibly fun stuff. I thank you so much for joining us today, Stephen, and for all of you who tuned in to listen. Thank you so much for being here. We so appreciate you, and we look forward to another chat again soon.
Thanks very much for having me, Michelle. Much appreciated. Thanks, everyone.